in American history started in 1910. It was known as the Great Migration. It saw nearly 6 million black Americans move from the South to northwestern and midwestern states, fleeing the racial violence and terrorism of Jim Crow. Now, if you just follow the railroads and highways out of the South, you can see where they landed. Cities like Oakland, Chicago, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and New York City. But once those who migrated arrived at their destinations, they learned that these places were not free of racism or prejudice either. A new documentary produced by HBO argues that the only way for black Americans to, quote, lift the burden of white supremacy, end quote, is by carrying out yet another great migration, but this time in reverse. Blow argues that if black people move en masse to the South, specifically to states with already high black populations, they can become the majority in the state and maximize their political capital. One of the states Charles visits in his exploration of this idea is North Carolina, which currently has a black population of 23%.
Let me pause it right there, because this whole idea of remigration sounds like go back to Africa. And we are not in the 19 or the 1800s, or we're not just coming out of slavery, right? And the whole reason why black people migrated first and foremost to the West and to the North was for opportunities. And so there is no more of a bigger stance that you can assert yourself against what they want to call white power, the concentration of white power in this country, which has completely destroyed this country in a lot of ways, more than a lot of ways. It's not necessarily remigration. It's not necessarily us concentrating back into the South. What needs to happen is just the opportunities. It needs to open back up to black Americans to allow black Americans to thrive. Why do we need to concentrate ourselves back to the South when, think about it, we have the World Wide Web, we have the internet, we have so many platforms where we are able to speak to each other and have a dialogue with each other, able to have meetings with each other, and able to like, share, subscribe, and do all these things to where we can have a communication with each other, and we can allow each other to have open minds with regards to concepts that are going on specifically to us as individuals. What is the need for remigration? However, I am going to let the gentleman speak.
People talk about North Carolina as the new Georgia, or the possibility it could be the new Georgia. It has a lot of the ingredients. Black business creation is thriving. Black home ownership is thriving. Black people are thriving. There's a lot of inflow of reverse migrants into North Carolina. There's a lot of progressive politics, a lot of energy around politics. Obama carried North Carolina in 2008. So you could see the same thing start to develop if you get more black people moved back to the state of North Carolina and the activists on the ground organize them into a powerful voting bloc.
So what about the cost of living that is in the South? How much more that is different from all these different states that we end up migrating to? I think that more of a reason in today's society why individuals is attempting to remigrate, because the cost of living in these other states are so much more better for individuals that, doesn't have a higher income of living. Now, when you consider in that, like I said from the beginning, why do we need to go back to the South? Like the South is going to save us, when it is generally a mindset that leads the path to your success more than anything else when it comes to where you at, where you from, and where you live at that moment. So the possibilities of remigrating to the South. You want me to go somewhere where I don't know nothing about? That sounds like go back to Africa to reconcentrate your powers as a people when I don't know nothing about Africa.
North Carolina is just one example that he talks about. After a quick break, we're going to dive into the premise of the film with Charles Blow himself, the creator of South to Black Power, which is streaming right now on Max. Also joining us will be the Democratic State Representative Justin Jones of Tennessee. Velshi's coming right back.
I'm trying to find a way we can lift the burden off the shoulders of black people of white supremacy.
Well, if you trying to find a way, brother, this is not it. You thinking that we gonna just remigrate up and pick up and go back down to the South because for the reconcentration of powers when we all just searching for opportunities? That's not gonna work at all. I'm sorry. That's way overblown.
What if we skip over all that hoping? What if we skip over all of the pleading and the begging and the marching and the shouting and go straight to the power? During the Great Migration, about 6 million.
First of all, I believe the brother's a Democrat. You know what I'm saying? And one thing that you got to learn about the Republican Party, man, is when it asserts itself as in its whiteness. And this is the Democratic Party too, but we speaking about capitalism at the moment. When it asserts itself in its whiteness, it doesn't care about necessarily, it doesn't, how it asserts itself in its whiteness is through the opportunities, the mindset that I'm going to go out and create opportunities. I'm going to go out here and work hard. I'm going to go out here and thrive more than anything else, more than location. That's like saying, in order to be successful, you got to be in California. Well, okay, then why is individuals like the founder of Facebook ready to go back to Florida? Because of California wealth tax. Are ready to go move out into Florida because of California wealth tax. This idea right here, it sounds like, first and foremost, it sounds like something out of the 1960s where you want to have a revolution and you want us to militarize against the white powers. When, listen, I don't know necessarily if you understand what that did to the black community. This whole idea of the revolutionary, the impact that it's had, the impact that we feeling when we continuously say that we have to group up against these individuals when one of us, just one of us, can have a mindset that changes the perspective of who black people are, what black people are all about, the intelligence that a black person has, and give the idea that, yeah, okay, well, how many more of these individuals are out there that we're overlooking? Because what I'm telling you is that with all the finger pointing that the black community has done over the years with regards to the reason why we're not making it because of white supremacy, why it may, and I mean, excuse me, I don't want to even say may, when you have the possibilities of absolutely being able to point that finger. But to allow that finger pointing to knock you down to a point to where you can't get up, that is the problem.
Million black people left the South for cities in the North and West. I suggest that black people return to the states with the highest percentages already of black people, where they can gain political power.
If we're gonna make a go of it, the South makes a lot of sense.
That's a trailer from the new HBO documentary South to Black Power, which explores the idea of a reverse Great Migration, arguing that black Americans should return to southern states that already have large black populations in order to increase political power. I'm joined now by the writer and executive producer of the film and our friend Charles Blow. He's an MSNBC political analyst, a columnist for the New York Times, and author of the best-selling book, The Devil You Know, a Black Power Manifesto, on which this documentary is based. We're also joined by another great friend of our show and a friend of democracy, Justin Jones, a Democratic state representative in Tennessee who represents District 52, which surrounds Nashville. Gentlemen, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Charles, let's start with you.
Before he starts, I want y'all to think about something, right? So we can bring some intelligent thought to this whole idea with regards to remigration to the South. When individuals who immigrate into this country, whether it's through legal means or illegal means, do you think that they come to this country in order to receive opportunity or to concentrate with their relatives over here in this country? And it's not necessarily immediate relatives, but to be a part of a certain cultural districts in the United States. If you want culture so much, then why didn't you just stay where you were at? Because you will get more culture out there where you were at in terms of where you from. The idea is that in a way of life that you are used to, then why didn't you just stay out there? Do you think that they came out here for opportunity, or do you think they came out here because the way of life that they come from, they felt it would be more fun, or they can concentrate powers from where they from? If they just came out here, they could be able to concentrate power out here a lot more, so they can have a lot more, better way of life, whatever it is. But at the same time, it just don't make any sense is what I'm trying to get to.
Writer and executive producer of this show, that's a big ask. You're asking Black Americans, after decades and decades of having moved to the North, to say, think about going back to the South, where you can tip the balance in some of these states, have real political power, and make change. How'd you arrive at this thesis? Because you're a guy who thinks about this a lot and has written about it a lot. How'd you get to this one? Because it's big.
Well, first, I want to say this. It's not as big an ask as you think, because it's already happening without me saying a word. I'm just trying to encourage more of it. The reverse migration is already a thing that Black people are engaged in. But, I look at it this way. Half of the power in the country, as allocated by the Constitution, is reserved for the states. And a lot of the things that Black people care most about, the things that touch their lives the most, are controlled on the state level. And that's everything from mass incarceration, how the criminal code is written, education, healthcare, whatever. And what we see across the country is that even when states or legislatures are liberal on a vast majority of issues, include everything from gay rights to environmental policy, that doesn't always align with racial egalitarianism and the protection of Black people and the equality of Black people, even in those states. And so I want to see a situation where Black people have more access to that state power the way that they did have it during Reconstruction, when 3 states were majority Black and 3 others were very close to being so.
Representative Jones, good to see you. You and I crossed paths at Howard University the other day, so it's nice to have you on the show. Let's talk about your story a little bit. You were born in Oakland. You have roots in Chicago. You represent a district in Tennessee. The numbers in Tennessee for Black population are not as high as some of the ones that Charles is talking about, but you have started to capitalize on this idea that a whole lot of people have moved to Tennessee, including to Nashville, where you are. A lot of people from the North have decided the lifestyle is better there. It's more affordable. We're going there. A lot of those people are white people. Why not Black people?
So the question becomes, do you want Black people to remigrate to the South for your own political stance, for your own political will and opportunities, so that you can concentrate the Black vote to vote for you? Because it's seeming kind of selfish right now.
Well, it's good to see you again, my friend. And this book, and I watched the documentary last night, offer a very powerful thesis. My family left West Tennessee to go to Chicago, fleeing the terrorism, the violence of Jim Crow, and then eventually moved to Oakland and San Francisco. And I came back here to attend a historically Black college, Fisk University, where I now also teach. And I think it's something that Du Bois, another Fiskite, said, is that, so goes the South, as goes the nation. Whether or not we see this large exodus of Black people return to the South, we know that the South will be pivotal and key in the future of this nation. And so this is a choice between mass enfranchisement or mass disenfranchisement. It's a choice between states that recognize racial justice or states that are beholden to white supremacy. It's a choice between democracy or the fascism we saw in my state this year, where they expelled the 2 youngest Black lawmakers. And so I think that the South is a powerful space. And though I'm based in Tennessee, I've spent the past few months traveling the South, talking about this idea that the South will rise anew, traveling to South Carolina and Texas and North Carolina, standing in solidarity in this movement for multiracial democracy, because I know that the South is the way forward to a nation that respects human rights and human dignity, particularly of those who've been denied it for so long in this nation.
Charles, let's talk about places like North Carolina, or where you are right now in Georgia, or Louisiana, where you're from, where you've got, in many cases, supermajority Republican legislatures like they do in Tennessee. But you have, in some cases, Democratic statewide officials. In other words, more people voted for a Democrat statewide than managed to at a state level, just because of the way gerrymandering works. Tell me about that. I mean, at some point, do you get to the point where you can change a place like Tennessee, where some of Representative Jones' people on the other side of him, on the Republican side, don't even run against a candidate? It's so gerrymandered.
Well, the thing that I, keep my eye on is what you said, statewide races. Right now, you have, like in the state of Georgia, 2 senators that were elected by a coalition led by Black people, which is the first time that has happened in American history, by the way. And but the next step, those people went to Washington, right? So they don't stay in the state to do the state's business. They can do advocate on behalf of the state in Washington. But there's another pillar or another domino that has to fall, which is governor seats, because what governors allow you to do is to have veto power over what legislatures can do. It is a safeguard, a bulwark against the worst impulses of the legislature. And then on top of that, it is important to remember this as well, which is what is happening here in Georgia. The more Black people who have come to Georgia, so, the Black population in Georgia has doubled from 1990, from 1.7 million to 3.4 million Black people. It becomes harder and harder and harder and harder to draw your majority white or majority Republican districts, because there's just too many people. And what you see happening is that the judiciary will at some point step in and say, you just can't do this, which is what they've done in Alabama, what they've done in Louisiana. You just cannot do this. There's too many of these Black people. You have to give them representation in a district that allows them to vote for people who look like them or who that they want to elect.
Representative Jones, the State House and the idea of controlling state government is central, ultimately, to Charles's argument. From your experience, because I got to tell you, in all my years, I didn't know much about the Tennessee legislature. You were the first person that's like, oh my God, who is this guy and what's going on in that crazy legislature? In the end, the state houses are where some of this damage is most done, and that's where most of the repair is going to have to come from.
I mean, the state houses are the front lines of preserving democracy in this nation. In fact, here in Nashville, we just had a gathering of hundreds of Black lawmakers from across the nation, from Alaska to Alabama, for the National Black Caucus state legislatures met in Nashville just this week. And we talked about the idea of state legislators being this bulwark against the extremism. I mean, in my state of Tennessee, this is where we're passing laws that are underfunding public education, attacking the books that our children can read. This is the state where we're proliferating guns and mass incarceration. And in Tennessee, even though we're only 16% of the population in terms of Black voters, 1 in 5 Black men cannot vote because of felony disenfranchisement. And so they are terrified of multiracial democracy. They're terrified of this Black political power. In fact, this is the state that is the birthplace of the KKK, a movement meant to stop Black political power and stop people like me from being in these positions. I'm here in my Capitol office right now. And so I think it's so critical to lift up the state legislatures. I'm the first non-white male to represent this district, House District 52 in Nashville, the most diverse district in the state of Tennessee. And we've been able to shift and force conversations on things like common sense gun laws, on things like racial justice and reparations, on environmental racism, challenging these narratives that they would rather not talk about. And so I think it's critical that if we're going to change this nation, that we cannot neglect state houses, because this is where they have invested in terms of their extremism. And this is where we can, build a new South and really revive democracy in this nation.
I disagree. I completely disagree with that, because the whole civil rights movement, right, regarded equal rights, right, and that's meant equal opportunity, to be involved into the economic system of the United States of America. It was more on the economic developments that we weren't able to get into as black people. And so instead of concentrating on the vote, right? Because if you concentrate on the economic opportunities for individual, you should be concentrated on some much more like illegal immigration or immigration instead of focusing on the idea of remigration, because there is nothing that has devastated the black community more than immigration, because immigrants take away the jobs out of the black community. So why are we focusing on grouping up more than we are focusing on? I don't want to go to a state to where the opportunities that is in that state is less than the opportunities that I will have in the state that I'm in now. If the opportunities that I have in this state is more than the opportunities that I will be receiving down in the South, what makes sense for me to just go ahead and just pack my bags and go down South just so these individuals can have a vote? You miss the whole idea of equal opportunity if you don't look at the economic situation that black people was trying to get into with regards to the migration in the first place. It's always been about economic opportunity. And that's primarily why individuals was trying to escape the South and go north in the first place, because they didn't want to be slaves. They want to be treated equal, and they want to be able to have the advancements to their own independence as free people.
Just those words that you said on the show, I'm here in my Capitol office right now, tells you that something might be going in the right direction. Guys, thanks so much. I really appreciate this. Representative Jones, always a pleasure to see you. Charles, always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Thanks to both of you. Thanks for the documentary. Charles Blow is the writer and executive producer of the new HBO documentary South to Black Power, which is streaming right now on Max. Justin Jones is the Democratic state representative from Tennessee. They are both great friends of our show.
Next. I ain't going back down South. I'm tell you, I'm not going back down South. I'm gonna keep it 100. The cost of living out there is great, but the opportunities, I can have opportunities anywhere. And so instead of concentrating powers to streamline votes in terms of kind of have people conjure up into one area, man, listen. You know, as much diversity has come in this country because of black people, because of the struggle against white power, the reason why you have the legislation with regards to the Immigration Act in 1965 was to attempt to die down on it, in which why I stated that if white people would have, here are we coming into this whole mindset with regards to white people that, hold up, we need to slow down on immigration, because the immigrant is becoming so opportunistic that they're taking opportunities away from us. And when the white people are starting to see this whole idea, here you are, you're focused on concentrating on the vote, when voter ID is about to be required. You have a president who is trying to codify the use of illegal immigrants in the workforce. First of all. Second of all, when you think about the trade schools that black people are not being able to focus on in terms of being able to advance in opportunities, because the trade school lines are so full with immigrants, illegal immigrants, colleges, and stuff like that. Not to say that these individuals should not be receiving educations, but if you close the borders to give everybody else the opportunity to have economic advancement, that is way much more important for you to gather votes. And see, this is this is the whole idea where Democratic Party policies just stink because all they care about is the vote. They don't necessarily care about the economic opportunity. They are taking the economic opportunity away from you by focusing on illegal immigration, by focusing on trying to die down on the white power when you're taking the economic opportunity away from the people that are here because you're so focused on the struggle against white power that the white power has just woke up right now and said, look, oh y'all, this is how y'all want to go about this. Y'all want to destroy the country so that you can just have a power, or that you can remain in power, or that you can fight against the white powers and stuff like that. Well, okay. See, this is the other side of why this is kind of hit full circle of why now that we're trying to get all this illegal immigration worked out and this immigration worked out, while it don't matter where you move to. As a black man, you're going to be able to have opportunities anywhere that you go. It doesn't matter where it is. I can see how places like California, where you have illegal immigrants getting driver's licenses, which allows them with the opportunity to vote. Fix those problems because you creating within the last 4 years of the Biden administration, you're taking a vote away from the black man, but then you want us to concentrate and move somewhere else in order to concentrate our vote. Man, knock it off. Tony Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live show. Always remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel. It's a good day to be a soldier.